When you're selling your home, no matter if you use a realtor or if you're selling it by yourself, there's going to be two different types of fees when selling your home. There's going to be your transactional fees and there's going to be your debts or liens. With debts and liens, they are very specific to your situation. The situation of how much of a mortgage do you have on the property? Do you have a mortgage on the property? Do you have a secondary mortgage on the property? Do you have liens specific to a job that was done, a remodel that you had to take a mechanic's lien out? You have solar panels on the house. Then there's also the utility fees. Now that can vary based on the home. For example, if it's a public water and a public sewer system, you have to get certifications and verify before the settlement that everything is up to date and you have to pay for getting those certifications done. However, if you have a private well or you have a private septic system, you don't have to worry about those certifications because they are private. And in a lot of cases, they don't even have to be in working order for you to sell your home. This is dealing specifically with public systems. And in some cases, you have to get a trash certification to make sure the trash bill is up to date. Depending on if it's in a specific borough or township, your house is completely paid off, then when you're calculating what the net proceeds of the sale of your house will be, it's pretty easy to calculate because you don't have to calculate for any debts or liens. Now the second category is your transactional fees. Whether you use a realtor or not, you're going to have specific fees. You're going to have to pay the title company, going to have to get different certifications with the sale of your home to make sure everything's up to date and paid, and you have to pay transfer tax, and that varies depending on where your home is located. One thing to understand is that there is a ranking system of what needs to be paid off first, and that'll vary from state to state, county to county, but there is a certain pattern of what needs to get paid off. Although it's a little daunting, the seller is the last person to get paid typically with the sale of the home. You'll see it on the official Ulta or settlement sheet. At the very bottom is going to say what the net proceeds are. But before you ever list your house, make sure you get an estimated seller net sheet from a realtor or an attorney before you ever sell your home or sign any contract. Transactional fees are pretty standard, but there is some variance to them. For example, if the buyer decides that they are going to pay for the transfer taxes for both parties, then you don't have to pay that, and that's great. In the state of Pennsylvania, for most areas, there's a 2% transfer tax that normally the buyer pays 1%, the seller pays 1%, and they pay the transfer tax to the government. However, if a buyer says that they are going to take and pay for the seller's 1%, then they don't have to worry about that when calculating what their transactional fees will be. However, not everywhere in Pennsylvania is 2%. For example, Reading City has a 5% transfer tax in total. So 5% transfer tax means 2.5% for the seller, 2.5% for the buyer, or the buyer has to pay the full 5%, or in some cases, the seller will pay the full 5%, depending on the negotiations. There are some small title fees that have to be paid from the seller. Majority of the title fees, like title insurance, is going to be paid by the buyer. The biggest transactional fee is hiring a real estate agent. Now, there's a whole lawsuit that came about, and there was a settlement that happened in August of 2024 regarding this process and how real estate agents weren't doing their jobs in the sense of communicating that commission is negotiable. If they said before that it wasn't, then they lied. It's been negotiable. I was taught from day one when I became a real estate agent that commission is negotiable. The commission can be negotiable about the total percentage that you have to pay. The commission can be negotiable about the split, whether it's even between the buyer's agent and the listing agent, or not paying a buyer's agent at all. You, the seller, have to go into an agreement with an agent that's going to list your home. So they're referred to as the listing agent. So whatever that contract is, it will state clearly what the commission will be. Now, that's the commission for the listing agent and for the buyer's agent. It will say in a separate section what the commission is for the buyer's agent. I'll show an example right here of what that looks like. Whatever that commission that is agreed upon between you, the seller, and the listing agent has to be stated on the estimated net sheet so you feel comfortable moving forward. As I mentioned before, every situation is different when it comes to the cost of selling your home. You have different debts, you have your location that can influence how much you have to pay, and you also have the commissions and transactional fees that can vary often, not including the different debts that you have because it's so situational. Not including debts or liens, I would say between 5 to 8% is a good estimate for what your total cost would be when selling your home. To calculate what your total cost would be, you just figure out what your evaluation of your home is and then do the 5 to 8% of your transactional and total cost to sell your home. Then you also have to subtract any liens or debts that you have on the property, and that way you can accurately get an estimate for how much you'll net from the sale of your home. If you're thinking about selling their home, you want to make sure that you have the updated documents for if you know of any liens or debts on the property, what those would be. You can contact a realtor because realtors will mostly do that for free. I've presented people with free home market evaluations, what the value of their home would be, and then also I've calculated what the estimated cost would be so that they know if they were to sell their house today, this is roughly what they would net from the sale of their home. If you have any questions, please drop them in the comments, and if you haven't already, like and subscribe. I greatly appreciate you. Have a good day.